I'd like to share some Toolpath options with you that were previously only available to our 4 and 5-axis customers. Toolpath with options that allow you to do smooth, flowing toolpaths across multiple surfaces, even extending past the end of the surface when you so choose. Another option is the ability now to do smooth undercutting with a key cutter or a teardrop. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to share with you some of the principles of the new 3-axis multi-cut. Let's go over to NC, drop down to 3-axis, and choose multi-cut. Let's select some surfaces here across the front and say that we're done. The front page has stayed pretty much the same with selecting a tool, and we'll skip the feeds and speeds for now. These tabs across the top are the general order in which you produce a tool path with 3-axis multi-cut. So let's start with cut control. This top area here has to do with clearance values. The next area has to do with selecting the cutting method and some of the options. And this bottom area here has to do with tolerances. We go over to our vector control. That is locked for 3-axis. Next is leads and links. You're going to see that there are 4 different areas here. The first which is our first entry. Now as soon as we select an entry, say approach from rapid clearance, you'll notice a nice little graphic here. Then we go to rapid distance, see how that graphic has changed to show you exactly what that involves. And then plunge clearance once again. So let's go back up here and let's select our rapid clearance, and you notice that beside it it says modify lead in. That's because it is controlled by a common lead in and lead out down here. So if you don't modify here, what is common will be applied. So let's click on our common. In the lead in types, you're going to see there are a number of different options that you have available. So whatever option that you happen to choose and whatever orientation you happen to choose, you can modify it here, and then by selecting this button, apply the same lead out to whatever you selected in the lead in. Okay. If you want to modify it for that particular application or lead in, then you would modify it here by deselecting and selecting whatever lead in you would like to see at this particular point. The exit works exactly the same way. Next is gaps, a long cut, then links between slices and links between passes. I like to think of this as order of severity. Gaps along the cut, that's like imperfections. Links between slices, that's how it gets from one slice or one back and forth movement, if you like, to the next. Links between passes, that has to do with how it approaches the passes from one to the other. So let's say, for instance, that we are going to go along here with our gaps along the cut. We're going to leave that direct. Let's deal with links between slices. You can either follow the surfaces, nice little graphic here. You can choose a blend in between here. Any kind of feedback. We have some really nice graphical feedback for each one of the different styles. And of course that's going to vary with whichever options you want to see happen. You can also control whether you want a lead in or a lead out. You use a lead in and lead out, or no lead in and lead out. Have complete control. If you do choose a lead in, once again you get the option to be able to modify that. So there's a tremendous amount of versatility available here to you. As we go over to our gouge check, you'll see that there are 4 different levels. You think of it as kind of a hierarchy. For instance, for drive surfaces, your first option here, there are a number of different options, would be to retract along tool axis. And if you select the next one, say, well, if that doesn't work, then leave out the gouging points. And then if that doesn't work, then go ahead and stop the toolpath. So you get the idea of the hierarchy, if you will. The same thing can be applied for check surfaces. You can have up to 4 different groups. For instance, you can have this particular group has 10 thousandths of stock to leave, and this particular group of check surfaces has 40 thousandths or 100 thousandths to leave. And you can also choose how you want those to be handled in each one of those cases. So gouge checking has a tremendous amount of versatility.